Hi, it's great having you today. Today we'll be discussing APQR, process and approach. And welcome to my YouTube channel. I'll be great and I'll be glad if you could subscribe, like, and share to other people what you enjoy here. I'll basically say. Okay, so we get on to chemical engineer by profession. I have an MBA in finance and investment. I am also an ISO 9001 2015 lead auditor. I'm a certified Six Sigma Master Black Belt associate. I also have over 10 years in manufacturing. Today, what will be our objectives? We'll be learning about APQR, why APQR, what is APQR about, regulatory expectations, and what should the table of content of APQR be, how to make it smart and efficient. What is APQR? So APQR is a regulatory requirement for pharma companies as per FDA and CGMP APQR guidelines. Companies must review their annual product quality at least once in a year. Regular product quality review also helps drug manufacturers to revalidate their various processes, and this is mainly done for APIs. So if you look at the diagram I have by the side, you see that we have some of the contents that you should have in APQR. There should be analytical test results, there should be statistical analysis, master data management should be a part of it. All of this you need to have in the APQR. Most importantly, you should understand that you could also do it for non-APIs, but its focus is mainly for APIs. That's why you see it's mostly industry. Then what are APIs? APIs are active pharmaceutical ingredients. It's a part of any medication that produces an intended health effect. The APIs are produced from raw materials with a specified strength and chemical concentration. Some drugs, such as combination therapies, have multiple APIs that may act in different ways or treat different symptoms. One other thing which I've not put here, which is very common or which we see most of the time, is that you could produce an API that could be used in some other product, or what you have produced could become an API in some other product. In that product, yes, and then we have to do the annual product quality review. APQR. So APQR is a review report. It's a report that's required by regulation from different healthcare authorities. We would see most of these healthcare authorities that would require the APQR. So according to regulation, the drug substance and product manufacturers should review the manufacturing process and quality parameter at a minimum annually. APQR should be carried out for each commercial product manufactured in the previous year. It should also take into account reviews from the previous year. It should use a risk-based. For me, I think the primary objectives for APQR is to verify the reproducibility of the process, determine the suitability of current specification of the materials and finished products. Materials here, we're talking about raw materials and the packaging materials. Highlight any trends. It could be out of trends, out of expectations, out of specifications, but you need to highlight any trends. Identify product and process improvements. This is one of the great reasons why we do APQRs, because you want to see those things that are different, those things that are unique, I would say. So why APQR? More about this. What's the purpose? To verify consistency of the process, appropriateness of the specification, highlight any trend like we've discussed earlier, identify products or process improvements, to assess whether corrective actions or any revalidation should be taken. We have seen instances where we carried out the APQR looking at the trends and the results that came out, it was obvious that yes, there had to be a revalidation done for the process. The APQR process is performed to ensure that market products are compliant with GMP regulations, because one of the things that you would review in the APQR is that you are in line with regulatory specifications, right? The review will also help to determine the need for changes in the drug specification and manufacturing process or control. And when we look at the different standards that we have and what they say about APQR, I've taken just 4 into consideration: PICS, CFR 21, ICHQ7, and EMA. Let me use that word. So appropriateness of specification, you should look into it. Only ICHQ7 says no. And one thing I want you to know when you're writing your SOP or developing your template or developing your process is that you should, at a minimum, use the standard that has the most yes. So what I have done when I developed my own APQR template, APQR SOP, is that where I had for every section here where I have a yes, and then I put in into my SOP as an objective or as a scope. So appropriateness to specification is important. Appropriateness to specification for starting materials and packaging materials, finished product, is important. Determining the need for change is important. Out of trend, like I mentioned earlier, it's very important that you trend. Consistency to existing process, you need to talk about it, you need to trend it. Evaluation of data and assessment for requirements. A part of this, what's the frequency? Should be annual, and everybody agrees to it. If you look at all the standards we have here, they all agree that it should be annual, it should be rolling, continuous, not just the first year, right? You need to go to the second year, and it should always refer to the previous year. Products can be grouped, taking into account previous reviews. If no manufacturing has occurred in the review period, the quality review should be conducted per section and includes stability returns, complaints, and it's only ICHQ7 that talks about this. So I'd advise that you put it in. Then it becomes a regulation, right? Review of all batches. This is at a minimum, you should do that. A review of the packaging material, a review of new sources, a review of supply chain traceability, review of critical IPCs and finished good result, a review of OOS batches and investigation, deviation or NCs with investigations, effectiveness of kappa taken for an investigation, the process and method changes. All of these must be a part of your review, because if you look at my table over here, there is a yes on every row. So you must, at the minimum, take all of this into consideration. And it's the same for the responsibilities. We should follow up on actions and verifications during internal audits, timely completion of the CAPAs, responsibility of quality review, responsibility of quality, the QP, delegate, the qualified person, for timely completion and ensure of correctiveness. And these are the parameters that should be assessed in the report, like we discussed earlier. So what I've done here is just put all together and see what headers do we have and what are they actually. And what should our template contain? An introduction, product details, information, process flow, review of manufacturing data, summary of yield, release and reject, review of changes, deviations and kappas, stability, validation, qualification, talk about water. Water is a very important key ingredient. Environmental monitoring, review of changes, review of complaints, review of quality management system. Then the most important, like I mentioned earlier, is that we need to follow a risk-based approach. So once we have done we're done with our review and our report. We should check, is there a GMP risk in all that we have reviewed? If none is open, then we should say it's acceptable. If there's no critical GMP risk, but investigation is necessary to be followed for some purpose, then yes, we can say it's accepted on that condition. But if there is a critical GMP risk, then we won't accept the APQR. An approval should be done by minimum by quality manager and the qualified person, the QB. So there are 3 stages, basically, but just 4. So data collection, review, data report completion and review, and the approval. I would say write your APQR in 1 month, but yeah, based on the different standards, we will see that you have 60 days for some standards and 90 days for others. So you have between 1 to 3 months to deliver your report. You should have an annual schedule, also have a schedule or program for the individual product, APQR, showing when the stage, what should be. And I think that's basically it. So thank you very much. It'll be good to hear from you and see what your understanding about this process is.